My dear friends, some people spend half of their lives still not understanding why they are always living in exhaustion. They work harder than others. Their way of living is not really bad at all. Yet, sad things continuously happen to them. Some people encounter noble helpers the moment they step outside, while others experience coldness, pain, and obstacles wherever they go. Many people look at life and ask themselves, is fate already predetermined from the start, meaning that some are born to be happy, while others are born only to suffer? The spiritual Dharma Sutra reminds us that the Buddha once taught that all things arise from causes and conditions, and nothing appears in this life without a reason. Once, a disciple asked an old Zen master, "Master, why is it that under the same sky everyone's life is so different?" The Zen master did not answer right away. He slowly picked up 2 seeds, placed them in the disciple's hand, and said, "If you sow a chili seed in the ground, can you expect a lotus flower to bloom?" The disciple bowed his head in silence. The Zen master simply smiled. Humans are just the same. Whatever fruit you receive today begins with what you sowed in the past. Many people think that karma is something very distant, mystical, and terrifying. But in truth, karma is present within every single thought, every word, and every tiny action. Every day, if a person constantly loses their temper, they are burning away the peace within their own heart first. A person who always tries to outdo others and feels envious will find life heavy and suffocating wherever they go. There are people who live kindly but always expect others to treat them well in return, only to end up disappointed when things do not go as desired. That very attachment is also a form of suffering. The Buddha did not teach humans to blame fate, but taught them to turn inward and look back at their own minds. Because everything that happens in life, in the end, has its roots coming from within. People complain to the spiritual Dharma Sutra that their lives are too unfair. But if we look deeper, we will see that they often speak words that hurt others without realizing it. They get angry easily, blame easily, and keep inside their hearts old matters that passed a very long time ago. Some people hold on to sadness for many years just because of one unintentional remark, making themselves suffer without recognizing it. The more resentment the mind holds, the heavier life becomes, just like a room already full of dust where it is very hard for light to shine through. Humans are just like that. If the heart is entirely filled with anger and afflictions, even if happiness arrives, it is hard to keep it for long. In truth, what makes humans suffer the most is not the circumstances, but the way they react to those circumstances. Yet, the most precious thing in the Buddha's teachings is that karma is not something unchangeable. As long as today we know how to live a bit slower, lighten our hearts a bit more, know how to love more, and attach less, then life has already begun to shift its direction. When the mind is at peace, words also become gentler. When the heart no longer harbors envy, the connections around us also gradually become better. There are things that once caused us sleepless nights, yet looking back after many years, we see they are no longer important. Human life is impermanent. When outdoing each other, we cannot carry anything with us at the end of the road. Only karma remains. Therefore, instead of always asking why you suffer, learn to look back at the seeds you are sowing every day. Because fate does not rest in the hands of heaven, but is silently created from each person's own mind karma. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught very gently yet very deeply that mind precedes all mental states. Mind is principle, mind-made are they. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows them just as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox that draws the cart. Hearing that phrase, one might think it is just a moral advice, but if you sit still long enough to look back at your own life, you will see in it a great truth about human fate, because karma does not only lie in grand deeds, karma lies within every single small thought each day. A glance of contempt toward others is also creating karma. A statement that hurts another person is also creating karma. Looking down once instead of competing is also creating karma. A wholesome thought arising in the mind is also creating karma. Humans often think karma is something very distant, sounding like a story of past lives, of invisible cause and effect, of mystical things that cannot be seen. But in reality, karma is very close as one's own breath. Every day, what we think about the most, what we speak of the most, what emotions we hold on to the most, those very things are silently creating our life. There are people who open their eyes in the morning and immediately complaining about the hot weather, complaining about others being indifferent, complaining that life is unfair, complaining about their own disadvantages, complaining so much that it becomes a habit. Then, their entire face also begins to carry an exhausted appearance. The ancients had a saying, "As is the mind, so is the appearance." It is not by chance that those who live with a light heart often have very gentle eyes, nor is it a coincidence that those whose hearts are filled with hatred look at anyone and find them annoying after a long time. The spiritual Dharma Sutra reminds us that the Buddha taught that intention itself is karma. After forming an intention, humans then act through body, speech, and mind. This means karma begins with the thoughts of the mind first. It is not that you have to wait until you commit a grand evil deed to call it creating karma. There are people whose mouths say nothing and whose hands do nothing, but their hearts are full of jealousy, full of envy, full of wishes for others to fail. That mind is already making itself suffer, like a person drinking poison while hoping another person feels pain. Do you see how absurd it is? Yet humans sometimes really live like that. The other person only needs to succeed a little bit and one's own heart begins to burn. The other person is loved just a little bit and one feels uncomfortable. Then, returning home at night, one loses sleep with the head thinking continuously. Meanwhile, the other person might not even know you hate them. There is a very strange thing that people in this world often fear others hurting them, but they do not notice that their own negative mind is silently making them tired first. An instance of anger might only last a few minutes, but its echo can sometimes remain for the whole day. A moment of outdoing each other might just be a few words, but the feeling of irritation can last a very long time, like holding a hot coal to throw at someone else. The person who gets burned first is none other than yourself. The Buddha did not teach us to be gentle so that others would love us. He taught us to live wholesomely so that our own minds can be light. In the Dhammapada, there is a very profound verse, "Do not underestimate a small evil, thinking it will not come to you. Water falls drop by drop and in the end it fills a large jar." This verse sounds very simple, but if understood deeply, it is terrifying and also very awakening. No one suddenly becomes a suffering person. Suffering is accumulated bit by bit, from the times of refusing to let go of a small matter, from the times of holding on to an instance of anger forever, from the times of competing just to win at all costs. Just like that water jar, it does not suddenly become full overnight. It fills up from very tiny drops that the naked eye sometimes does not notice. There are people who all their lives always want to be better than others. Seeing a friend buy a new car makes their heart unpeaceful. Seeing a colleague get praised makes them uncomfortable. Seeing a relative succeed makes them smile with their mouth, but their heart sinks inside. They think they are striving to become better, but in truth, most of the time they are just living in comparison. And comparison is a form of self-torture that happens very silently, because out there will always be someone better than us in some aspect. If the mind does not know contentment, then no matter how rich one is, it is still lacking. Sometimes a person with a small house sleeps very soundly, while a person with 3 villas stays awake all night out of fear of losing something else. The ancients used to say a sentence that sounds both funny and true: money does not guarantee making people happy, but lacking peace definitely makes it hard to be happy. There are people who eat rice with vegetables, yet their hearts are light. There are people who sit at a banquet table full of delicious dishes, yet their minds remain unpeaceful. Why? Because karma not only creates external circumstances, but also creates the internal state. There are people who go anywhere and are loved, not because they are perfect, but because being near them feels pleasant. There are people who are talented, but everyone wants to stay away from them, because their way of talking always makes others feel heavy. That is also karma, the karma of life energy, of the way one treats others, of what one sows into the hearts of others every day. One light rainy afternoon in the city of Sravasti, a man came to meet the Buddha. He knelt down before him, his face full of exhaustion and bitterness. He said that he had never killed anyone, never robbed anyone. Yet his life was too miserable, his business failed, his family was in discord, while those who lived wickedly were wealthy and prosperous. He asked why cause and effect was so unfair. The space that day was very quiet. The bhikkhus were all silent, everyone thinking the Buddha would speak about karma from past lives. But he only gently asked a very ordinary question: how do you live every day? The man was surprised. He said he still lived normally. The Buddha asked again, do you often get angry? The man lowered his face and said, yes. He asked further, do you often speak words that make others sad? He was silent for a longer time and then gave a slight nod. The Buddha asked again, have you ever felt envious when seeing others succeed? At this moment his face began to turn red. Perhaps for the first time in his life he saw himself clearly. There were things that for a long time he considered normal, which in truth were silently creating suffering for himself. The Buddha looked at him with very compassionate eyes and said, a bitter seed cannot yield sweet fruit. Karma does not only lie in great evil deeds. Every day, every thought, every word is silently creating your life. The man burst into tears, perhaps not because of being blamed, but because for the first time he understood that today's suffering did not appear out of nowhere. It was accumulated from many small things in the mind, the times of anger, the times of bitterness, the times of silent envy that he himself did not pay attention to. Humans often think that as long as they do not commit a major bad deed, it is enough to live in peace. But in truth, it is the small cracks in the mind that cause life to leak happiness away every day. A look of contempt, a sarcastic remark, an instance of trying to make someone else feel ashamed just so you feel superior. Those things are very small, so small that people usually overlook them. But just like water dripping for a long time wears away stone, those unwholesome thoughts accumulated over a long time will turn into a very heavy karmic force. Conversely, there are beautiful things that are also incredibly small. A gentle word to someone who is tired, an instance of yielding instead of striving to win, a handshake at the right moment when someone is in despair. Those things might be remembered by no one, but karma remembers, the mind remembers, and life remembers. And then at some point when an event occurs, the good things you once sowed will return like a hand supporting you when you are at your most precarious moment. There was a mother who sold lottery tickets at the market for over 20 years. Anyone looking at her would think her life was miserable. She went to sell whether it was sunny or rainy. There were days when she returned home at night only to eat rice mixed with fish sauce. But she had a very unique habit. Whenever she saw someone hungrier than herself, she would share a portion of her rice. Whenever she saw a wandering child who was sick, she bought medicine to help. Once, a shoe-shining boy had a fever and lay curled up by the side of the road. She took him back to her rented room, cooked porridge, and took care of him for several consecutive days. No one hired her to do that. She was not rich either. It was just that she saw people in misery and felt love. Many years later, that boy became a driver. When she suffered a stroke, he was the very first person to take her to the emergency room. Then, each person in the market contributed money to help her treat her illness. The vegetable seller gave a little, the motorbike taxi driver gave a little, the fish seller gave a little. Someone said she lived kindly so heaven loved her. In truth, heaven is not partial to anyone. It is just that a person who sows love will receive love back at a time of difficulty. It might not be the right person or the right time you think of, but cause and effect is never lost. Karma often is not something too mystical. It is like an echo in the mountains. Whatever you call out, sooner or later you will hear that very thing return. A person who lives bitterly for a long time is often lonely without understanding why. A person who lives kindly is often helped in ways that surprise even themselves, not because life is partial, but because the energy you sow every day is silently returning. There are people who when young love to outdo others. Wherever they go they want to be right, and they must win even a small argument at all costs. Later when they grow old, they see that they won too much yet their hearts are not any happier. Sometimes they even lose precious relationships. The ancients said it very well, outdoing others means losing peace within oneself. Is it worth it? A word spoken to satisfy anger for a few moments exchanged for many days of a heavy heart. An instance of stubbornness to win that loses a relationship of many years. Many people live until the end of their lives only to realize that what they truly need is not winning, but peace. Buddhism does not teach humans to become weak. Buddha only teaches us not to create more suffering for ourselves and for others. A person who understands karma will blame life less. They no longer sit there asking why only they suffer. They begin to turn back and look at their own mind. What have I sowed today? Did I say anything that made someone sad? Did I hurt anyone just because of a momentary fit of anger? Have I lived kindly with myself? There is a very funny paradox in life. Those who are hot-tempered often think they are straightforward. Those who frequently cause pain to others think they are being honest. But being honest does not mean having the right to hurt other people. There are words that are correct, but if they lack compassion, they still create karma as usual. Just like holding a sharp knife without knowing how to use it, the sharper it is, the easier it is to hurt people. Many people think practicing the path means going to the temple a lot, chanting sutras a lot, that is precious. But if stepping out of the temple one still lives bitterly, then the mind has not truly transformed. There are people who cannot chant many sutras but live very gently, knowing how to think for others. Encountering anyone they are gentle. If they make a mistake they know how to apologize, and if helped they show gratitude. Such people are silently accumulating blessings every day, though sometimes they themselves do not know it. This life is like sowing seeds. No one sows chili and expects mangoes, yet humans often sow hatred and expect peace, sow selfishness and expect to be loved, sow envy and expect a tranquil heart. Do you see the contradiction? If you want sweet fruit, you must begin with the seed. If you want a peaceful life, you must begin with the mind. Someone asked the Spiritual Dharma channel if karma is accumulated from many lifetimes, is the effort in the present moment in time. The Buddha never taught that humans are locked within fate. He taught that karma can be transformed. As long as today our mind changes a little bit, being less angry than yesterday a little bit, blaming less than yesterday a little bit, knowing how to love people more than yesterday a little bit, that is already changing karma. Just like a muddy stream of water, if you do not stir up more mud, sooner or later the water will become clear again. Many people suffer not because life is too unfair, but because within their minds there is always a fire that refuses to go out, the fire of competing, the fire of resentment, the fire of envy, and strangely, the person who holds the fire the longest is the one who gets burned the deepest. There are people who outwardly laugh and talk normally, but when night falls their hearts are very tired, because all day they had to live in discomfort toward others. How can such a mind be at peace? An old man once said a very beautiful sentence: humans age the fastest not because of years, but because the heart stores too many matters. It sounds both amusing and profound. There are people who are only 40 yet their eyes are as tired as if they have walked through a lifetime of storms. There are people who are 60 yet remain as light as a cloud. The difference does not entirely lie in the circumstances. It differs in whether the mind knows how to hold or how to let go. Buddha taught impermanence not for us to be pessimistic, on the contrary. It is so that we do not hold too tightly onto things that are not worth it. Anger will also pass. Money will also change. Fame will also fade. Only the karma we created is what we carry along. Therefore, a person who understands the path does not care too much about how much more others have than themselves. They only care whether today their mind is more at peace than yesterday. There are nights when lying down, if you try to look back at your day, you will see it very clearly. A day of hatred makes the body incredibly tired. A day of living wholesomely makes the heart feel entirely light. There is no need to wait for the next life, because an effect sometimes comes very quickly right in the present. Saying a word that makes another person ache, naturally one's own heart also becomes unpeaceful. Helping someone sincerely, one sleeps better at night. The mind is the place that knows most clearly what one sows. Therefore, a person who understands karma will no longer care too much about who wins and who loses. They understand that the most terrifying thing is not being poor in money, but being poor in blessings. A person who has run out of blessings, no matter how much they keep, will still feel a lack. A person who still has blessings will walk through storms and still find people who love them, a way out, and peace in their heart. The Buddha never promised that living wholesomely means encountering no suffering. But he taught that a wholesome person, even when walking through suffering, still retains the light within their mind, and that very light is what rescues a human through the darkest days. Some are rich in money, yet their hearts are always unpeaceful. Some live very simply, yet sleep very soundly. Some have everything, yet do not see it as enough. Some have only a simple meal, yet still smile with gratitude. The difference lies in the karma of the mind. And then at some point, when passing through enough joys and sorrows, we will understand a very deep thing. Fate does not form out of nowhere. It is shaped by each small thought, each small word, each way we treat others every day. A peaceful life does not begin with having more. It begins with one's mind becoming gentler, lighter, and knowing how to love more. Therefore, if today life still has many things not as desired, do not hasten to blame fate. Try to sit still for a bit and look into your own mind. What am I nurturing every day? What am I sowing into this life? Because every seed will eventually sprout. Every drop of water will eventually fill the jar. And everything we silently sow into life will sooner or later return to embrace none other than ourselves. There is a thing that a great many people carry throughout their entire lives but rarely agree to sit still to look deeply into it. That is, there are pains that no longer come from other people, but come from the very way we hold on to them for too long in our hearts. The other person might only make us sad once, but we remember it for many years. They spoke a sentence in a moment of anger, while we use our entire youth to embrace that statement. Hurting ourselves every day. There are people who outwardly look normal, still smiling, talking, going to work, taking care of their families, but inside it is as if they are carrying a thorn planted very deep in their heart, which no one sees. But every time they touch the old memory, that thorn aches once again. And strangely, many times the person who caused the pain has forgotten it a very long time ago. Only we still lock ourselves in the past like a guard of sadness who refuses to leave. Do we ever notice? A word sometimes only exists for a few seconds, but the emotion we keep from it can last 10 years, 20 years, even a lifetime. There is a person who, just because of being criticized once when young, grows up always feeling they are not good enough. There is a person who, just because of a betrayal from then on, no longer dares to trust anyone. There is a person who, just because of being looked down upon during a difficult period later lives, always wanting to prove they are superior to others. They think they are being strong, but in truth they are just trying to hide an old wound that has not healed. Like a person who got burned once, later on looking even at warm water feels afraid. Not all water causes pain, but the memory makes them shrink back. The Buddha taught that the mind is the root of all suffering and is also the starting place of liberation. When the mind still holds anger and hatred, then even if living in a beautiful house, eating well, and dressing well, the heart remains unpeaceful. There are people rich in money who toss and turn every night because their hearts are filled with irritation and resentment. Conversely, there are people who live very simply, yet their eyes are gentle and light as a cloud. Why? Because they do not let negative things stay in their hearts for too long. The ancients had a very beautiful saying, Keeping sad matters in the mind is just like holding a hot coal to one's chest while hoping another person gets burned. Hearing it sounds a bit funny, but thinking carefully it is incredibly true. The person who gets burned first is always yourself. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that if hatred is repaid by hatred, that hatred will compound forever. Only compassion can dissolve hatred. Many people hear this verse and think that living like that is too difficult. Someone makes me suffer and I still have to be compassionate. But in truth, the Buddha did not tell us to defend the wrongdoing of others. He only wanted us to understand that if we continue to hold on to hatred, the person who suffers the longest is still ourselves. Like a person who has someone else throw trash into their front yard. If they keep that pile of trash forever in the yard and sit looking at it every day, getting angry, then who suffers more? Sometimes the person who threw the trash sleeps soundly, while we lose our appetite and sleep. There was a man who once recounted that for more than 10 years he did not return to his hometown just because he was angry at his father. In his youth, during a moment of anger, the father told him, "You won't amount to anything." Just that one sentence he held onto for many years. He threw himself into making money, trying to prove his success, trying to live so that one day he could return and show his father he was not useless. But the more he tried, the more tired his heart became, because what he truly needed was not to defeat his father, but to heal that sentence in his heart. When his father passed away, he burst into tears and said, "My whole life I went very far just to run away from an old statement. Is it worth it?" A sentence that existed for a few seconds took away the peace of an entire human life. Buddhism does not deny human pain. The Buddha never said that when hurt, one is not allowed to be sad. He understood the human heart very well. He only taught that pain is natural. But keeping the pain forever is the cause that makes suffering drag on. Just like being struck by an arrow already hurts, but sitting there twisting the arrow back and forth only makes the wound deeper. There are people who every day remember old stories like watching a sad movie over and over, thinking they are remembering so as not to forget the lesson. But in truth, they are slicing into their own minds bit by bit. Do we ever find it strange? Another person says a sentence to us, they only need a few seconds, but we use the entire night to think about it, sometimes even imagining all sorts of things. That person was just unintentionally cold one day, and we immediately thought they must hate us. There are sufferings that do not come from reality, but come from one's own imagination. The mind is like a garden. If you keep watering negative thoughts, weeds will grow everywhere. But if you know how to stop, know how to look at matters a bit lighter, the heart will be very different. Long ago, there was a young meditative student living in a temple, but his temper was very hot. Seeing anyone make a mistake made him uncomfortable immediately. The courtyard sweeper who had not cleared it cleanly made him irritated. The novice monk who spilled tea made him frown. Once, just because a fellow brother forgot to close the door, he remained angry for several days. He thought being like that meant he was serious and lived with principles. But in truth, his entire face was always tense, like a person owing money everywhere. Someone even joked that looking at him, he seemed more like a guard of the temple than a practitioner of the temple. It sounds amusing, but it is true that a person holding too much irritation in their heart will find it hard to be liked. One day while cleaning the tea room, a small novice accidentally dropped a cup that the Zen master highly treasured. The cup shattered on the tiled floor. The novice was so terrified he burst into tears. Those present all thought this time the master would surely fly into a great rage, because everyone knew that cup was a gift from a soulmate who passed away long ago. But the strange thing was the Zen master only remained silent. He bowed down to pick up each fragment very slowly, very gently, like lifting a fallen leaf rather than a broken item. The young student stood watching, unable to understand. He asked the master why he was not angry. The Zen master only smiled and said very softly, "This cup, from the day I had it, I already knew that one day it would break." That statement left the disciple frozen. That night he sat out on the temple veranda for a very long time. The sound of the wind blowing through the bamboo grove sounded like someone whispering something very deep in his heart. For the first time, he understood that pain does not lie entirely in the event that occurs, but lies in our non-acceptance of impermanence. We want everything to be forever as we wish. People must love us forever. Objects must remain intact forever. Life must always be smooth. But life does not operate that way. There is a very sad paradox that humans always know flowers will wither, yet when the petals fall, they still grieve. They know people will change, yet when they change, they still hurt. They know life is impermanent, yet they always wish for everything to stand still. And that very non-acceptance creates a great deal of silent suffering. There is a person who lost a relationship and many years later still has not walked out of it. Not because they still love too much, but because they cannot accept the fact that everything is now different. They are like a person who stands forever at the old pier, even though the ship left a long time ago. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha taught that a person holding anger is like a person picking up a hot coal to throw at someone else. They themselves get burned first. Hearing it, it sounds like just a metaphorical image, but in truth it is very accurate regarding daily life. There are people angry at someone to point that even eating rice does not taste good. Lying down at night, thinking of it makes the heart beat fast, the head turn hot, and sleep impossible. Meanwhile, the other person might still be living normally, still going out, still laughing and talking happily. So in the end, who is being tortured more? Sometimes it is none other than ourselves causing our own suffering without realizing it. There was a woman who said she could not forgive her best friend because of a betrayal. Every time she remembered the old story, she shook with anger. But the most painful thing was not the betrayal of years past. The most painful thing was that for the subsequent 8 years, she no longer dared to trust anyone. Anyone who came near her faced suspicion. Anyone who was good to her made her fear they had an agenda. Thus, the person making her suffer the longest was no longer the old friend, but the very wound she kept forever and refused to let go. Many people think letting go means forgetting everything. No. There are things we still remember, but they no longer hurt like before. That is true letting go. Just like an old scar on the hand, we know it once existed, but touching it no longer causes a sharp pain. Letting go is not denying what happened, but refusing to continue letting the past control one's present. There are people living today whose minds are trapped 10 years ago. The body is here, but the heart keeps returning to old matters, to blame, to regret, to be angry. How can one be at peace that way? Sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is not another person, but one's own ego. We refuse to let go because we think if we forgive, we lose. If we pass it over, the other person wins. But in truth, this life is not a match to compete forever like that. There are things where even after winning, the heart remains very tired. The ancients said conquering others is not equal to conquering oneself. And the hardest thing to conquer is the stubbornness within the mind. Mr. Than was such a person. He worked as a mechanic in a small alley. Life was poor, so the husband and wife often quarreled over money. Once, during a moment of intense pressure, the wife blurted out that he was useless, which was why the family was so miserable. Just that one sentence he kept for 15 years. From that day on, he stopped speaking almost entirely. Meals in the house were always silent, as if covered in smoke. Whatever the wife said, he only muttered to pass it over. He did not beat her, he did not curse. But that prolonged coldness was more painful than the sound of shouting. Many years passed, and the wife got cancer. During her final days, she was so weak that holding a bowl of rice made her tremble. One night she cried and said, "That day I only lost my words during a moment of anger. I apologize to you." But Mr. Than still remained silent. Perhaps within his heart at that time, there was still a very thick wall. After the funeral, the house became strangely desolate. There was no sound of coughing each morning, no sound of slippers shuffling in the kitchen, no one left to remind him to eat his meals on time anymore. One evening, he sat alone in the old kitchen, looking at his wife's clothes still hanging on the wall. Suddenly, he burst into tears like a child. He said, "In this whole life, the person who made me suffer the most was not my wife but myself." Hearing that statement, many people fall silent. Because it is true, there are wounds that could have healed a long time ago, but we keep peeling them open with our own hands every day, so they can never heal. Are we ever like Mr. Than? Just because of one sentence becoming cold to each other for a decade? Just because of being misunderstood once, no longer wanting to open the heart? Just because the ego is too large, losing a great many precious things, until the person is no longer there, only then realizing that what we held onto tightly for so many years was actually not worth much at all. There are people who all their lives embrace anger like embracing a treasure, but holding it for too long, they forget that they themselves are running out of strength. The Buddha taught that everything in this world is impermanent. The person who is with us today might become a memory tomorrow, a sentence not yet spoken, a word of apology not yet offered, often becomes a lifelong regret. Therefore, those who understand the path do not let anger sleep for too long in their hearts. They know how to be angry, know how to be sad, but also know how to stop at the right time. Just like the sky having rain must also clear up. No one carries a rainstorm throughout their entire life. An elderly person once said a very profound sentence: being angry at someone for one day is losing joy for one day. Being angry at someone for 10 years is losing joy for 10 years. It sounds like a joke, but it is true. There are people who, because they hate someone, mention that person's name wherever they go. Remembering them in the morning, remembering them at noon, remembering them at night. Consequently, the person they hate lives in their head the most, thinking about it. In the end, are we living for ourselves or are we living for our anger? Letting go is not weakness. A truly strong person is one who does not let emotions drag them along forever. There are people who outwardly look very tough, but just mentioning an old story makes their heart surge with waves immediately. Conversely, there are people who have experienced a great deal of trauma yet remain gentle. Not because they have never ached, but because they understand that keeping the pain forever does not make life any better. There are things one must learn to set down so the hands become light enough to hold on to peace. A monk once compared the human heart to a glass of water. If the glass is already filled with mud, then pouring delicious tea into it will still not yield any aroma. Our mind is just the same. If it is always filled with resentment, then even when joy arrives, one cannot feel it. There are people who travel everywhere, yet their hearts remain heavy. There are people who just sit under a tree drinking a cup of tea, yet their minds are at peace. The difference is not in the circumstances, but in what is being contained within the heart. Many people think they must wait for the other person to apologize before they can let go. But what if they never apologize? Are we going to keep the pain until the end of our life? Forgiveness sometimes is not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace. Forgiveness is returning freedom to oneself, no longer being pulled back by the past, no longer lying down each night replay the old things like a sad movie with no ending. There are people who as they grow older get angry less, not because they become weaker, but because they understand that time is more precious than outdoing each other. Human life is very short. Meeting in the morning, there is no certainty that enough affinity remains by the evening. Yet many people spend the most beautiful part of their lives just embracing a few old matters to make themselves suffer. Is it worth it? A frown from another person taking away so many days of peace for yourself? Practitioners of the Dharma no longer try to keep everything according to their own wishes. They understand that life is like a river. Some people come and then leave. Some matters unite and then dissolve. Flowers bloom and then wither. Resisting impermanence only makes one more tired. When acceptance of change is achieved, the heart naturally becomes a lot lighter. Just like the Zen master who already knew the cup would break, so when it broke, he no longer felt too much pain. There is a very deep thing that sometimes requires passing through many losses before humans can understand. That is, not everyone who hurts us truly wants to hurt us. There are people who are just too tired. There are people who have never been loved in the right way, so they also do not know how to love others. There are words as sharp as knives, uttered only because of a minute of anger. If we forever hold on to the worst moment of another person to conclude their entire character, then we ourselves are locking ourselves in the dark. Of course, letting go does not mean allowing others to continue causing harm to us. Compassion is not unconditional endurance. A person with wisdom knows when to stay and when to leave. But even when leaving, they do not carry hatred along. They are like a person stepping out of a room full of smoke instead of standing inside it complaining forever. Because they understand that the most important thing is not defeating anyone, but retaining peace within their own mind. There are nights when you just need to sit still and look very deep into your heart to realize that a great many of your sufferings actually stem from the refusal to let go. Is letting go of an old sentence that difficult? Is letting go of a matter already past that difficult? Perhaps it really is difficult, but if we do not let go, who will suffer in our place? Others cannot bear the ache for us. We ourselves are the ones carrying it every day. The Buddha taught that the mind is like the surface of a lake. When the lake is agitated, no matter how beautiful the moon is, it becomes distorted when the heart still harbors hatred. Even if life has many good things, it is hard to perceive them. Therefore, the path of healing does not begin with changing others. It begins with returning to take care of one's own mind, learning to breathe slower, learning to look at everything a bit lighter, learning to understand that everyone has their own misery. A person once asked a monk how to stop hurting from old matters. The monk did not preach a lengthy sermon. He simply handed the person a glass of water and told them to keep holding it. A moment later, the arm began to get tired. The monk asked, "How heavy is the glass of water?" The person replied, "Probably not very heavy." The monk smiled, "That is right, but the longer you hold it, the more it hurts." Sadness is just the same. It is not always that it is too large, it is just that we keep it for too long. And then one day, when that is truly understood, we will find our heart softening a great deal. We no longer want to argue to win, no longer want to keep forever the things that make our heart heavy. We begin to understand that peace does not come from life being free of hurt. Peace comes from us not letting the hurt remain for too long in the mind. When the mind is light, karma then transforms. When the heart ceases to fill itself with resentment, life naturally also becomes less heavy. Perhaps others are still not perfect, perhaps life still has many things not as desired, but at least we are no longer hurting ourselves any further, and that is already a very great liberation. There are people who live very gently. They have never beaten anyone, never deceived anyone, nor done anything too bad to the world. Yet it is very strange, their hearts are always unpeaceful, and wherever they go, trouble easily arises. Being near anyone for a while, harmony is lost. The family is not at peace, children grow distant, and friends gradually leave. Many people think it must be because their fate is less fortunate. But in Buddhism, there is a very deep thing that the longer people live, the more they absorb. That is, there are karmas not created by hands and feet, but created by one's own mouth. Verbal karma is like kitchen smoke. When it first rises, it seems completely light, but over a long time it stains the roof, the clothes, and even the breath. A person who speaks out of habit often does not see themselves as wrong. Only the listener carries the wound for a very long time. Have you ever met such a person? Every time they open their mouth, others feel tired. Not because they speak too much, but because every word makes the listener's heart heavy. Some love to criticize, some are used to being sarcastic. Some speak like slashing knives every time they get angry. Initially they think once spoken it is over, but they forget that their mouth speaks for 1 minute, while the heart of the other person remembers for a whole year. The Buddha once taught in the Dhammapada that words that are gentle and harm no one, those are beautiful words. Hearing it, it sounds simple, but look at life today and see how many people can truly speak beautiful words when their hearts are burning with anger. People cultivate their bodies a lot, learning to dress decently. learning to behave in society, but they forget to cultivate their own mouths. There are people who go to the temple regularly, with their mouths reciting the Buddha's name beautifully, yet returning home they make their relatives cry just because of a few harsh words. That is why there is the saying, the tongue has no bone, so it twists in many ways. A tiny tongue can bring down an entire household. In reality, in daily life, many families break apart not because of poverty. There are couples who once ate instant noodles together yet still laughed happily. But then one day, they could no longer bear each other's way of talking. The husband comes home tired from work, and the moment the wife sees him, she begins to grumble. The wife is sad about the children, and the husband just drops a few cold remarks. Day after day, the house no longer has laughter, but is filled with nagging. Outsiders looking in think it is due to basic livelihood, but deeper down, it is because words have lost their gentleness. There is a very strange thing that a person can endure physical hardship much better than heartache. A person can work 12 hours each day and still keep striving. But if every day they hear words that make them feel worthless, they will gradually run out of strength from within. Just like a tree having boiling water poured onto its roots, the outside is still green, but the roots have been burning silently. There are children who grow up in the sound of shouting. They eat their meals amid comparisons. They go to sleep with the feeling that they are not good enough. Adults often think children forget quickly, but in truth, children remember for a very long time. There are sentences that parents forget after one night, yet the children carry them all the way to adulthood. A boy was once scolded by his father as being as stupid as a cow just because he did math incorrectly. Later, when grown up, every time he stands before a crowd, he trembles, not because of a lack of knowledge, but because in his head there is always a voice saying he is inferior. You see, words sometimes are like nails driven into a wall. Even when pulled out, the hole remains. People of this world often fear knives and swords, but few fear words, whereas there are words even sharper than knives. A knife cutting the skin can heal, but bitter words cutting into the heart remain painful for many years. A young bhikkhu once came to meet the Buddha with a face full of regret. He said he had just spoken harshly to a potter in the village. The matter was small. The potter made a ceremonial vase that was slightly warped, and the monk blurted out a criticism, calling him a useless man. The potter only bowed his head in silence. But from that day on, he no longer came to the temple. The bhikkhu began to feel remorse, unable to sleep at night. Finally, he sought out the Buddha to ask why just a few words could make his heart so unpeaceful. The Buddha did not blame him. He only gently asked, "If you scratch the trunk of a tree with a needle, does that mark disappear immediately?" The bhikkhu replied that it does not. The Buddha then said, "Words are just the same. There are wounds on the skin that will heal, but there are wounds in the heart that follow a human for a very long time." Hearing this, the bhikkhu fell silent. The next day he went to the potter's house to apologize. The old man burst into tears and said something the monk would remember for a lifetime. He said, "I am not sad because of being criticized. I am sad because for the first time in my life, I thought I was truly useless." You see, there are words we speak during a moment of anger, thinking they are like a passing breeze, but to another person they can be a storm. Verbal karma is not just cursing or insulting. Sometimes it lies in our way of speaking that lacks understanding. There are people who are not wicked at all, but opening their mouth they cause harm to others. There are people who think they are being straightforward, but in truth they are just used to using words to vent emotions. The ancients had a saying, "Illness enters through the mouth, calamity exits through the mouth." Contemplating it carefully, it is incredibly accurate. How many conflicts in this world begin with a statement lacking mindfulness? There are breakups that occur not because love has run out, but simply because people are tired of the words that hurt each other for too long. A tree, if cut into its trunk every day, will eventually wither. A heart is just the same. There was a girl named Mai who every time she looked in the mirror burst into tears. Not because she was ugly, but but because throughout her childhood she never believed she was good enough. Mai's mother loved her very much but was hot-tempered. Whenever Mai did something wrong, she would scold. "Why are you so foolish? Look at others and learn you are truly useless." Initially, they were just words spoken during anger. But hearing them repeatedly, Mai began to believe they were the truth. Growing up, she was very afraid of communication. She worked hard yet did not dare to accept promotion opportunities. Every time she was praised, she thought people were just saying it to be nice. Do you find it painful? A human being who grows up healthy, hardworking, and kind, yet inside always carries the feeling that they are not deserving. During a psychological therapy session, Mai wept and said something that made anyone listening fall silent. She said, "The thing that hurt me the most was never hearing my mother say I did well," just that one sentence. But a person waits their entire youth and still cannot hear it. Buddhism does not teach us to remain silent like a log of wood. The Buddha did not tell humans to be mute before everything, but he taught about right speech, which means truthful and wholesome speech. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha stated there are 4 qualities of right speech. It is spoken at the right time, spoken in truth, spoken affectionately, and spoken with benefit. It sounds easy but is very difficult to practice, because most humans speak according to emotion. When happy they speak sweetly, when angry they speak as if pouring fire. Do you ever notice that when you are angry, you always want to win through words? People argue not to understand each other, but to outdo each other. And the price to pay is usually the peace of both. There was a husband who was very hot-tempered. Whenever he returned home tired from work, he would shout at his wife and children noisily. One day, his son brought home a paper with a poor grade. He flew into a rage, scolding the boy as a good-for-nothing. The boy did not argue, he just silently went into his room. That evening, the father accidentally saw a line of scribbled handwriting in his son's notebook. "I tried my best, but I am not as smart as my friends." The father read it and froze. He began to recall the boy's eyes when being scolded. There are times when adults think they are teaching their children, but in truth they are venting their own exhaustion onto them. A child does not need perfect parents. It only needs a place where even if it is clumsy, it is still loved. There is a very heartbreaking paradox in this life. Relatives are the ones we love the most, yet they are also usually the ones to whom we speak the harshest words. Out on the street, we still know how to be mindful with strangers, but returning home, we easily utter bitter words to the very people who love us. Why is that? Because we think they will understand? Because we think they will not leave. But the human heart is like a piece of paper. If crumpled too much, it will wrinkle. One day they no longer cry, they no longer argue, they just remain silent. And that silence is sometimes more terrifying than any argument, because it is the sign of a heart that is exhausted. Someone asked the spiritual Dharma channel, if words are known to be that important, how does one cultivate verbal karma? In truth, it does not require anything too grand, just speak a bit slower. Many matters, if we slow down for a few seconds before speaking, might turn out very differently. When angry, do not hasten to open the mouth, because when the mind is surging with waves, words are usually no longer mindful. A person who knows how to cultivate speech is one who knows how to stop at the right time. Sometimes remaining silent for a bit can save an entire relationship. The ancients told a funny story that there was a husband who every time he argued with his wife lost. One day he went to ask a monk how to maintain family harmony. The monk handed him a cup of water and told him every time an argument was about to start, keep the water in his mouth. A month later, he returned to offer profuse thanks because the house had become entirely peaceful. The monk smiled and said, "It is not holy water, it is just that when the mouth is busy holding water, it cannot speak words that hurt each other." It sounds funny, but reflecting on it, it is very real. In meditation practice, there is a very beautiful practice of deep listening and loving speech. This means listening to understand, speaking to love, not speaking to win, not speaking to satisfy anger. There are people who spend their whole life learning how to talk in society, but have never learned how to speak gently to their loved ones. They can be very polite with customers but are irritable with parents. They can be very gentle with outsiders but cause harm to their children. Spiritual practice sometimes does not lie in lofty things, but lies right within the way we speak to each other every day. A question of care at the right moment can save a person from despair. A word of encouragement at the right moment can give people more strength to live. Do you notice? A person carrying heavy verbal karma rarely has true peace, because words not only cause pain to others but also reflect back onto one's own mind. A person who frequently criticizes others is someone whose heart has a lot of irritation. A person used to being sarcastic is usually someone whose inside is not light. The mouth is like the window of the mind. When the mind is at peace, words are light. When the mind is chaotic, words easily become sharp. Therefore, to change one's fate, first of all, one must change the mind within. When the heart calms down, words naturally also differ. There was an old woman living in a poor neighborhood whom everyone liked to meet because she talked very gently. Her house was not rich, nor could she help anyone with much money. But people said that just sitting and listening to her speak a few sentences made their hearts feel light. That too is a blessing. There are people who bring a sense of peace to others simply by the way they offer words. The Buddha once taught that before speaking, ask yourself, is this word true? Is it necessary? Does it bring benefit? If not, silence is better. Silence here is not coldness, but mindfulness. There are times when people need an embrace more than a lecture. There are times when just sitting next to each other in silence is enough to heal. People of this world often think speaking a great deal is showing care, but sometimes speaking too much drives each other further away. An old mother once said a very profound sentence. She said, "When young I thought raising children meant giving them enough food and warm clothes. Now that I am old, I finally understand that what a child remembers for a lifetime is the way we spoke to it." Hearing it makes one feel choked up, because in truth, human memory does not retain every single event, but it retains for a very long time the feeling that another person brought to us. A child raised with words of encouragement will be more confident with life. A wife offered kind words by her husband will find the house lighter. A husband coming home tired from work who is asked after gently will feel less pressure. This life is already full of storms. If returning home one still has to dodge each other's words, then where can the heart find shelter? There are people who all their lives go searching for feng shui, looking for good days, looking for ways to change their fortune, but they do not know that the greatest feng shui lies within their own words. A house can be small, but if it is filled with words of love, it remains warm. A house can be very beautiful, but if there is nagging every day, it remains cold. A person who has practiced and studied for a long time will understand. Blessings do not only come from giving money, but also from the way one lightens the hearts of others. There are words that are like sowing flowers, and there are words that are like sowing thorns. Then one day, we ourselves will walk on the path shaped by what we sowed. Ladies and gentlemen, changing one's fate is not a matter of one morning or one evening, but every great change begins with very small things, from the way you speak to your parents today, from the tone you use for your children, from the attitude when replying to the server at a diner. A mindful person is one who knows that every word they speak is creating karma. Karma is not something mystical or distant, it is the habit repeated every day. Each time we speak a kind word, our mind softens a bit. Each time we restrain a fit of anger, our karma lightens a bit. Practicing the path is not to become a perfect person, but to cause less pain to each other. If today you can still speak a word of love to someone, please do not withhold it. If today you can still apologize, please do so. Do not wait until the person is no longer by your side to realize that you spoke too many meaningless things, yet lacked the words that needed to be said. Human life is very impermanent. Meeting in the morning, by evening one might already be far away. There are words not yet formed into speech that will remain in the heart for a very long time. And who knows, from the day you begin to speak slower, a bit gentler, knowing how to listen a bit more, Your fate might also gradually change, not because of any external miracle, but because within your heart, a storm has subsided. When the mind is no longer too turbulent, life naturally also becomes lighter. Just like the surface of a lake, when the wind stops blowing, the water will naturally become still. And when the water is still, only then can people see the sky. There are pains in life that do not come from losing something, but come from our refusal to accept that the thing has truly left our hands. A person loses a romance and aches for a few months. A person loses a relative and aches for a few years. But there is also a person who, just because of an old sentence, an old look, an unfulfilled promise, keeps it in their heart for half their life. We think that if we still remember, still wait, still keep, it means we still love. But in truth, there are times when what we are keeping is no longer love, but regret. And regret prolonged for too long usually turns into suffering. The Buddha once taught in the Samyutta Agama that all pounded things are impermanent, meaning that everything with a form, everything that arises will change over time. The person who loves us today might change their heart tomorrow. A household that today is full of laughter might be vacant tomorrow. A body that today is healthy might be frail tomorrow, not because life is cruel to us, but because the nature of life is change. Many people hear about impermanence and feel sad. They think impermanence means loss, separation, and breaking apart. But in truth, impermanence does not cause us pain. It is our desire for everything to be forever that causes us pain. Like a person standing in the middle of autumn demanding that leaves stop falling, can anyone keep them? Leaves will still fall. It is just that a person who understands the law looks at the falling leaves with a light heart, while a person who resists looks at the falling leaves and their heart withers along. In daily life it is just the same. There are people who as they get older become more tired, not because life is too heavy, but because they try to keep too many things that have reached the time to be let go. Keeping a person who no longer wants to stay, keeping a relationship that cooled down long ago, keeping an old image of oneself, keeping an instance of pride, keeping a sentence that caused pain 10 years ago. Our hands are small, and if we hold too much, getting tired is a normal matter. The Buddha taught that where there is union, there is separation. It sounds simple, but if one truly sits still and lets that phrase absorb into the heart, one will begin to view everything very differently. One will understand that every encounter will eventually have a day of parting. A bus has people boarding and also people stepping down. No one travels with us the entire distance. Some come just to teach us a lesson. Some come to let us know the feeling of being loved. Some come to make us mature after trauma. If we look a bit deeper, we will see that no encounter is meaningless. It is just that we keep wanting the people who have completed their role in our life to stay forever, which is why we suffer. There is a strange thing that the harder one tries to grasp tightly, usually the faster it slips away. Just like sand, grasping gently it remains, but squeezing too hard the sand flows out through the gaps of the fingers entirely. Human affection is just like that. There are those who love through control. They want to know where the other person is, what they are doing, whom they are speaking with. They fear losing to the point that they can no longer enjoy what they have. And in the end, that very fear makes love suffocate. There are those who live in a marriage while worrying about betrayal every day. There are those who have a stable job but fear unemployment every day. There are those who are not yet sick but worry about old age and frailty. They live in fear of the future more than living in the present, while the present just keeps passing away. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha taught that whatever arises is subject to cessation. That statement does not aim to make humans pessimistic. On the contrary, it helps us wake up to appreciate what we currently have. Knowing that one day parents will grow old, we will argue less. Knowing that the person before us is not guaranteed to sit next to us forever, we will speak words of love more. Knowing that health does not exist forever, we will learn to live slower. Impermanence does not take away the meaning of life. It makes each moment become a lot more precious. Long ago in Japan, there was a very famous general. He won many battles, had soldiers who respected him, and held power in his hands. Outsiders looking in all thought he must be very happy. But as he grew older, he became increasingly unpeaceful, sleeping poorly at night, and even delicious food did not taste good. He feared losing power, feared old age, feared death. Once he told his guard that he felt like a person sitting on a pile of gold, yet the heart remained cold. It sounds amusing. Others who have nothing worry, while he who has too much also worries. It turns out if the human heart is not at peace, then wherever one is, one remains unpeaceful. One spring, that general sought out an old Zen master living on a mountain. He asked, "How can the mind achieve peace?" The Zen master did not answer right away. He just silently led the general out to the courtyard. In the courtyard, a cherry blossom tree was blooming beautifully, and as the wind blew, petals flew all over the ground. The Zen master asked him, "Do you see the flowers as beautiful?" The general replied, "Very beautiful." The Zen master asked again, "Why are they beautiful?" The general was silent for a moment and then said, "Perhaps because they bloom brilliantly, even knowing they will soon wither." Hearing this, the Zen master only smiled gently and said, "Humans are just the same." That statement left the general standing frozen for a very long time. He looked at the petals falling in the wind, and for the first time in his life, he no longer wanted to resist change. He understood that precisely because things do not exist forever, each moment is precious. If cherry blossoms bloomed year-round, perhaps no one would stand to watch. If human life lived forever without aging, perhaps no one would know to treasure time. There are things that are beautiful precisely because they are brief. There are encounters that make the heart remember forever precisely because they do not last. Many people suffer not because life takes away too much, but because they keep wanting everything to remain forever according to their wishes. But life does not operate according to anyone's wishes. Life operates according to causes and conditions. When conditions are sufficient, things come. When conditions end, things leave. It is not a reward, nor is it a punishment, just a natural law, like rain falling and then clearing, wind arriving and then departing, clouds gathering and then dispersing. No one blames a cloud for why it does not stand still in the sky. It is only humans who keep wanting emotions and everything around them to stay in one place. There was a woman named Huang who lived in suffering for 8 years just because she could not accept the fact that her husband had changed his heart. She used to have a very happy family. The husband and wife started out from difficult days. When they had no money, eating a bowl of instant noodles together brought joy. When they had money, the husband began to change. He had an affair and then left with someone else. Mrs. Huang could not accept it. She thought that after all those years, he could not treat her that way. And so she lived in resentment for many years, crying every night, unable to sleep, and bringing up the old matter every day. Friends advised her to let go, and she got angry even at her friends. In her heart there was only one question: why did you treat me like that? Someone looked at her and said, "Oh, men." Hearing that phrase, many people probably find it amusing. One is hurting to the point of death, yet people say it calmly as if discussing the weather. But in truth, every pain needs time. No one who has just been wounded can laugh immediately. It is just that if kept forever, the wound will become a thorn in the heart. One afternoon, Mrs. Huang sat drinking iced tea by the side of the road. The old woman selling tea looked at her for a long time and then asked, "What are you waiting for that you sit here every day?" She smiled sadly and then recounted everything. The old woman listened in silence and then said a very light sentence: "You are keeping a person who wants to leave, which is no different from keeping water in your hand. The tighter you grasp, the faster it is lost." That statement left her frozen, not because it was too lofty, but because it was so true that one could not argue. That night, for the first time in many years, she took off her wedding ring and placed it in the drawer. Not because love had run out, nor because she forgot, but because she had begun to accept that there are people who only walk with us a segment of the road, and we cannot force anyone to stay through tears or endurance. Affection is not a tree that revives just because you water it a lot. There are things where the affinity has ended, and the more one holds on, the more it hurts. The greatest suffering actually is not the loss, but one's refusal to accept that loss. There is a person who after breaking up still checks the social media of their ex every day. There is a person betrayed many years ago who still asks themselves where they went wrong. There is a person who lost an opportunity and lives forever in regret. They are like a person standing before a closed door who refuses to turn around to see how many other doors behind them are open. When cause and effect and destiny are understood, our heart begins to soften. We understand that there are things that arrive not to stay forever. Some come to repay a debt of affinity. Some come to teach us how to love. Some come to teach us the lesson of letting go. If we look a bit deeper, we will see that even traumas have their good side. Thanks to having ached, we know how to treasure peace. Thanks to having lost, we know how to appreciate what remains. There is a phrase the ancients said very well: when water is too full it overflows, when the moon is too round it wanes. Life is inherently never perfect forever, but humans keep wanting to maintain a most beautiful state, wanting the other person to love forever like at the beginning, wanting oneself to remain forever young, wanting money to remain forever full, which results in suffering. Sometimes we are like a person holding a withered flower while demanding that it remain as fragrant as when it first bloomed. The flower is not at fault, it is just that its season has passed. Those who understand cause and effect usually live lighter, not because they are not sad, they still ache. Losing a relative, they still cry. Breaking up, they still grieve. Failing, they still feel tired. But they do not remain in the pain for too long. They know everything is changing, and emotions are just the same. Today it hurts to the point of suffocation, but if we do not nurture it further with resentment and regret, one day it will also gradually lighten, just like a heavy rainstorm while it is raining. It seems as though it will never stop, but then the sky clears up anyway. In meditation insight, there is a very light way of looking. People observe emotions like observing flying clouds. Clouds arriving, one knows clouds arriving. Clouds leaving, one knows clouds leaving, neither pursuing nor repelling. Sadness is just the same. The more we resist it, the heavier it becomes. But if we sit still observing it like a wave passing through our heart, it will gradually calm down. There are nights when we just need to sit still, breathe slow, drink a glass of warm water, and say to our heart that this too shall pass. Naturally one feels a lot lighter. Many people ask how to find peace. In truth, peace does not come from life being free of storms. Peace comes from us ceasing to resist the things that cannot be kept. There are those who spend their entire life searching for certainty, but life is certain about nothing at all. There is only one thing we can learn, which is to make our mind soft enough to pass through every change without breaking. When it is understood that everything is impermanent, we will blame life less. Instead of asking why this happened to me, we will learn to ask what the lesson here is. Instead of resenting the person who left, we will offer thanks because they once appeared. Instead of regretting forever a thing lost, we will return to take care of the things still present around us: a warm meal, a relative who is healthy, a morning of waking up in peace. Sometimes happiness is actually a lot simpler than we imagine. There are those who spend their whole life looking for a life without change, but the further they go, the more tired they become, until the end when they understand that what is needed is not a life free of impermanence, but a mind that knows how to comply with impermanence. When our mind softens, life naturally also becomes lighter. The rain still falls there, people still come and leave there, but our heart is no longer swept along as before. And then one day, when looking back at the things that once caused pain to the point of sleeplessness, we will realize they also helped us mature a great deal. If we had never lost, perhaps we would not know how to value things. If we had never broken apart, perhaps we would not have learned how to love ourselves. If we had never walked through dark days, perhaps we would not understand what true peace is. A person who knows how to accept the fruit is not a person who gives up on life. They are simply a person who has ceased to demand things that no longer belong to them. And strangely, Precisely when they cease trying to hold on, their mind begins to be at peace. There are phases in life when a person suffers to the point of just wishing for everything to change very quickly. A person in debt wants to be free of debt immediately. A person who is sick wants to be healthy immediately. A person who is heartbroken wants to wake up from a sleep and forget everything. And when hearing about transforming karma, many people also think it must require doing something incredibly grand, having to go to the mountains to practice for many years, having to give up everything, having to make a great deal of merit for destiny to change. But the Buddha taught a very light thing. Karma does not change through one grand deed in one day. Karma changes through small things repeated every day. Just like water running over stone one day looks like nothing, but 10 years later the stone is worn away. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that by oneself is evil done, by oneself is one defiled, by oneself is evil left undone, by oneself is one purified. It sounds simple, but sitting still and thinking carefully, you will see that an entire life rests within those few lines. No one can live in our place, no one can practice in our place, and no one can make our mind peaceful if we ourselves refuse to change bit by bit. There is a person who every day complains that their lot is miserable, yet opening their eyes in the morning they lose their temper. Wherever they go they speak bitter words, and with anyone they encounter they compete. Returning home at night they blame heaven for why their life is not at peace. Just like a person who every day pours boiling water onto the roots of a tree and then asks why the tree does not turn green. The tree probably wants to turn green very much, but if we water it that way, how can it endure? In truth, transforming karma does not begin with lofty things. It begins with the moment we know how to stop before saying a sentence that hurts someone else. It begins with the moment we know how to breathe slower when getting angry. There are people who previously were very hot-tempered, just someone speaking against their wish, and they would strike the table and shout. But then one day they learned how to remain silent for a few seconds before reacting. Just a few seconds. Yet life turned out very differently, because there are words where if spoken, apologizing for a lifetime cannot bring them back. The ancients had a saying to turn the tongue 7 times before speaking. It sounds amusing, but in truth it is very deep. There are times when we lose an entire relationship just because of 1 minute of failing to hold the mouth. And there are also times when we preserve a family simply by knowing how to endure one sentence. Many people think enduring is losing, but in Buddhism, enduring at the right moment is wisdom. Not everything where we are right needs to be spoken to the very end. There are arguments where one wins the logic but loses the affection. There are times when after outdoing someone, lying down at night the heart still feels heavy. So then, what is winning for? There was a man who recounted that he and his wife argued just because of a dishcloth. It sounds like a joke. The wife said that cloth was to wipe the kitchen, and the husband said the cloth could wipe the table as well. The two argued back and forth, and in the end they remained angry at each other for 3 days. 3 days just because of a cloth. Thinking back, anyone finds it funny, but daily life is like that. A great deal of suffering does not come from large matters, but from the tiny egos bumping into each other every day. The Buddha taught that every action creates karma. Not only actions of the body, but also words and thoughts create karma. We think wholesome things often, and the mind will gradually become light. We nurture resentment a lot, and the mind will become dark and angry. There is a person who outwardly smiles and talks normally, but in their heart is always blaming, envying, and feeling uncomfortable with others. Just like holding a hot coal in the hand, the other person is not necessarily affected yet, but one's own hand gets burned first. Therefore, transforming karma is not just going to the temple a lot or chanting sutras a lot. Transforming karma is looking back at one's own mind every day. Am I less angry today than yesterday? Am I speaking words that are easier to hear? Am I living more kindly? Just that is already very precious. There is a very beautiful thing in Buddhism that many people absorb only after living for a long time. That is, our mind is like a garden. If it is not cared for, weeds will grow naturally. No one sows the seed of ignorance and afflictions, yet ignorance and afflictions remain full. No one teaches envy, yet the heart naturally knows how to envy. Therefore, practice is not adding something to oneself, but pulling out the things that weigh the mind down. Just like a glass of muddy water, if stirred continuously, it remains forever muddy, but if left still, the mud will settle. Meditation is just the same. Sitting still is not to become some celestial being at all, but to give one's mind a chance to settle after too many days of being agitated by life. In the Satipatthana Sutra, the Buddha taught to live mindfully in each breath, a very short phrase, but if practiced, life changes completely. Do we ever notice that when angry, our breath is very shallow and rapid? When worried, our chest feels tight. When at peace, the breath is as light as a breeze. Therefore, many times healing does not begin with solving every problem. It begins with sitting down, breathing slower, and allowing oneself to become calm first.